Welcome to another episode of Absolutely Fabulous. It's episode 35, and this week we are covering sacrificial community, 600,000 tonnes of Sydney waste set for part.
And we're also going to be talking about the Great Australian Cattle Drive that is raising money to put red meat into food banks for the vulnerable people of Queensland. We'll be answering some questions that some people have about succession planning is moving ahead. So what do they need to do next? And I'm cold today. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got my hoodie on. I've got my Nana blanket. Fire will be lit this evening. I will guarantee it.
And we've done a swap because last week I was in multiple layers and this week it's for you. So Australia, wow. Is it winter or is it not winter? It can't decide down here.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to Agsolutley Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer from Dubbo, New South Wales. And I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the ultimate farm wife. Together, we are Absolutely Fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you, and we hope you enjoy it.
So let's get into today's episode.
All right, let's get into it. Katja, chit-chat time. What have you been up to?
It has been a really busy week. We've got the National Shorthorn show and sale this week, so we've got a bull in there, which is keeping us busy. We are doing a lot more work on our blocks out west, which is very exciting, and it's still calving, so between the kids and all of that, we've been on our toes.
So it does, like, you're commuting back and forth. Obviously that will be taking a bit of a chunk of a time out of everyone's day to go out there and back again.
Yeah, but it's great to be in the car where, you know, your husband can't get away from you and you can open up those communication pathways about things that need to be discussed, or, you know, just even having quality time with the kids where I'm not trying to drag them in and out of the car all the time or around the farm. So I enjoy the drives.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit over driving, to be honest, because, you know, it does take us a while to get anywhere. But yeah, oh, that sounds exciting. So when's your on-farm bull sale? That's soon, yeah?
Yeah, that's coming up soon. So that's on the second Tuesday of July. So that's the 8th of July. So starting to do a lot of the prep for that as well, getting everything sorted. Catalogues went out this week, both the postal copies and the digital copy.
Ooh.
Exciting. We're here before we know it.
Yeah, it will be. All right. So I've been doing not much. I just finished my second last ever uni unit, Introduction to Film Production, I think it was called. Had me in tears at one point because nothing was working properly, but submitted that over the weekend. Yeah, other than that, not much else is happening. Been mucking around with the new horse, still looking for a name for the new horse. I did have someone reach out to me on Twitter and ask if I could name the horse after her, which I don't object to, but realistically, I haven't ridden her or anything yet, so she might turn out to be an outrageous bitch of a thing. So do you want me to actually be screaming at this horse? Such and such is a bitch. She's terrible. So always think about that when you're asking people to name animals after yourself. That's can backfire considerably. But other than that, last week of school for Eleanor at least, so yay to no more day-to-day school. Not that we do very much of it anyway, but school holidays for me start very soon. Yay.
Is that forever?
No. School holidays for Eleanor. And then I think we've got 3 weeks off, 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember because Eleanor's on one different school term and Steve's on a different one. So I've got no idea what time or date it is. So, yeah, just make arrangements as they pop up in the calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't even checked that yet because it's my first year with school terms. So I'm sure someone will tell me when they don't have to drop the kids to school.
Yeah, remember, don't come next week because we won't be here.
Absolutely. So let's jump into our first article. So, sacrificial community, 600,000 tonnes of Sydney waste set for Parks. So, Parks is a town in central west New South Wales. It's quite close to here, it's only a few hours away. And there are farmers who are up in protest because it's productive agricultural land that will take the major hit for this. And it's just disgusting that people will just think, well, out of sight, out of mind. It's not their issue because their dumps and their waste system can't handle their trash. So let's send it out to the country. That's disgusting. Remember, we feed you.
So, yeah, we drove through Parks when I came over to the conference. Was that this year? Jesus.
This year,
Earlier
beginning of this year.
Time flies, I swear. And you know what else Parks has? It has the giant satellite dishes that help land a man on the moon. And so it is a big sort of, a lot of people drive through there and they go through there for tourists. And now, like, waste is a problem, but simply like relocating it to somewhere where you don't have to deal with it is not dealing with it. And anything that's going to take away productive agricultural land and it'll be lost forever, because obviously once you start dumping rubbish somewhere, you can't rehabilitate that land. You can't ever grow crops or run livestock there ever again. You can't build a house on it. You know, it is lost forever. So like, I can understand, I would be really, really upset, especially on the back of the fact that like livestock and agriculture, you know, carries the brunt of the, you know, climate damage, all of these sorts of things, when realistically, it's probably one of the smaller components of like not just methane emissions, but environmental damage as a whole. When you look at the amount of waste that urban centres create and then don't deal with appropriately, I think we need to start thinking a little bit harder about how we manage our waste, and dumping it on farmers' doorsteps is not dealing with it. It is not the best way to manage this issue. And, you know, these people who live in these urban areas wouldn't enjoy it if we just started dumping mountains of cow shit on their front doorstep. So why should these people who in good faith for many generations have farmed this land, built their homes there, now be saddled with a problem that they didn't create? Like, this is this out of sight, out of mind policy making, or not in my backyard's another way to describe it. Like, yeah, do better, New South Wales. That's appalling.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's no different to dumping it in the ocean like they used to. It's no different to any of the other strategies they've had. Now, they've also factored into that, if they're wanting to jump on the climate change and everything bandwagon as well as part of their environmental impact, well, now they're actually using more fossil fuels and everything else to be able to run that garbage out from the city to here. So Parks would be around 4 hours, 5 hours drive from Sydney. So that's a 10-hour round trip for those trucks. That's a lot of miles. That's a lot of diesel.
That highway is not in great shape.
No, it's not.
When you think about the sheer volume of heavy transport that's going to be on that road, in addition to the actual productive heavy transport that carts grain and feed and those things around, that road, and I will guarantee you they haven't budgeted to improve that road. And then when they do decide, oh no, the road's falling apart, what impact's that going to have? Like, there's going to be, like, no one has thought this through. No one, they've just gone, oh, okay, let's get this rubbish out of the city so we don't have to deal with it. We'll just ship it out to the back blocks so the poor old farmers will, you know, have to manage it or whatever. And in the process, ruin their infrastructure, impact their livelihoods, and plummet their land values.
Yes.
Like, there is no equity in this situation at all.
Yeah.
And like, I would be expecting to hear from New South Wales farmers on this, to be completely honest, because waste management and use of productive agricultural land for, you know, these, and you could say, oh, it's bad enough that they're, you know, building solar plants and wind turbines and that sort of thing. At least, you know, you can generate some income out of that if they are put on your land. A rubbish dump on your doorstep, no, it's and like, who? Oh yeah, let's go to Forbes and Parks where the world's biggest dump is. Like, instead of the you know, the world's biggest, I don't know what sort of satellite dishes they are. The Dish, the movie, the Dish. Like, let's stop on our road trip there. And like, oh no, because now the whole district stinks. Because there are a couple of really big, what do they call them? Waste transfer stations, they call them now, on the highway between Mum and Dad's and Adelaide. And even though they're a significant distance from the road, you can smell them a lot as you're driving, like in like probably a 20-kilometre radius. And like, you know, you just need the breeze in the wrong place, and then it's wafting over towns and over your home. No, do better. There's got to be a better solution, and just dumping it out in productive farming land is not the answer.
If you guys are listening and you want to be able to jump on the bandwagon, if you want to make a difference and do something, write a letter, send it to your local MP. It doesn't have to be a letter; it could be an email. Where let's be a little bit more savvy.
Write a strongly worded email.
Send it to your local member. Send it to New South Wales farmers. Let them know you're backing them, because if we don't back them, no one else will. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yep. And you know, you think, oh, what's it going to do to me? It might be your hometown next.
Yeah. If they get it passed in one county, that's American. If they get it passed in one area in Australia, then it's more likely to roll out in others. So let's try and stop that from happening. Let them take more responsibility for their waste, for their actions, and stop attacking farmers. We've said this, I think, every episode we've done so far. But this will impact your food quality, your food health, your food availability. We've already had questions come through previously about the supply chain and how that can be easily broken with natural disasters, let alone adding a man-made disaster to it, especially the chemical testing. Who's going to pay for the chemical testing? Who's going to treat all the water? Like, there's just so many things that haven't been incorporated into this, and all it will do is negatively impact the community that it's a part of.
Yeah, it's a no-go. So yeah, let's do that. We'll chase up see if there's any petitions or anything, and we'll include those links in the socials this week.
So Gillian, that takes us to the mid of our episode, and this part of the episode is sponsored by Farmtable. So thank you, Farmtable. Farmtable now hosts our podcast page, our landing page. So I will add that in the show notes below for you all to check out. But welcome to Farmtable. Farmtable is a proud independent Australian agricultural knowledge platform, bringing together the most relevant and curated agricultural resources from around the globe. More than that, Farmtable supports industry collaboration, peer-to-peer networking, and functions to build the capacity of individuals and organisations across the entire Australian ag supply chain. With over 3,000 resources, the latest agricultural events, funding opportunities, grants, micro courses and workshops, all in one location, Farmtable makes it easier to find the information you need. So Gillian, this week we've been sent in a question, and we've also seen similar ones asked on different platforms on social media about succession planning. So you've been waiting and waiting for your family to do the succession plan. And the question is, what courses can you do either in advance or post, you know, when the succession planning is starting, or post succession plan, to really get you sorted, particularly when the books and the accounting has been kept tightly under wrap, and then all of a sudden it could be your responsibility, or you need to have your head wrapped around what it takes to run an agricultural business. Let's get into it.
Yeah. And this is probably going to be, because there's two sides to this coin. There's the practical skills that you're going to need, like actual bookkeeping skills and how to use the bookkeeping program. Fingers crossed that your business does have a digital bookkeeping program. If you're still like writing stuff out in a ledger, I can't help you, to be honest. Your accountant's probably tearing his hair out too, or her hair, whatever. And then there's the other side of it. So what skills may you have atrophied since you entered being a farm wife? So that might be your interpersonal communication skills, you know, employee management skills, time management, all that sort of stuff. So there's really no limit, I guess, to what you could do. But I think we should probably identify what the key, you know, just to get your ball rolling sort of thing. So the very first thing you should do is buy a ticket when they're announced for the upcoming Farm Wives Conference in February next year, because this will all be covered at the conference. So if you're like right on the cusp and you know, worried or concerned about finding that safety network and finding that group of people where you can have a safe space to ask questions, definitely go to the Empower Her Farm Wives conference in Dubbo. Is it going to be at the zoo again?
Yeah, it's going to be at the zoo again.
At the zoo's an awesome venue. Go to the zoo, look at the lemurs. They hang out on a little island just out the front of the conference venue. Do that. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for that to come along, what should you do, Katja? This is your wheelhouse. This is what you sort of do, helping people integrate into a family farming business. So what should we be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the top courses that I've come across, either I've done myself or the community have done and really recommend, is Carmen Quaid's courses. We've spoken about Carmen here on the podcast before. She does that financial accounting farming stuff, but it's a practical course. It's not all your numbers. Like, she's really good at making it relatable for what you and your farm are doing. She's a really lovely person. She's happy to answer questions. The only silly question is a question not asked. Really great to work with, great courses. The Farm Owners Academy have had awesome feedback as well from many farmers who have done that through the Ultimate Farm Wife, through our alumni community. So they basically take the pastoralist side. So assessing, you know, anything from assessing food and fodder through to grazing systems, into how that looks in your books, how you can actually work out, right, we know that we can't control the weather, so let's come up with several action plans that we can implement, which makes the decision making in the time less overwhelming, because we've already set out when we're going to make that decision, what's going to dictate that, and we've decided it. It's like choose once, decide once, action it, review kind of process. They're really great at pulling all that together. And they're also really great at putting on tours. So if you're part of the Farm Owners Academy and you get put towards a peer group, so you're all in a group together, you all discuss, you know, it's very private, very sensitive, because we know that a lot of people don't want to talk about their finances, they don't want to talk about their business structure. In that group, it's very safe, it's very secure. None of that information leaves that circle about your farm that you're sharing in that space. Farm Owners also comes along to the conference. So if you want to have more of a chat with them, they are there. But that group also, they compare businesses. They can compare structures, budgets, decision making. They are people you can ask the question to. And it's a great way to learn people. You also get to go on farm tours. So you get to go and see their farm and see what they're talking about and see how they're implementing it, which is fantastic within a group. If you are looking at more the business plan cash flow, you can do sort of like an agribusiness course, whether that's online through Tocal or just a small snippet like P2P Agri put a course out as well. And the conference and program, which I did previously, why can I never remember the name? The Farm Business Resilience Program, which is another great one. So that's put out by DPI as well.
Go to your local Department of Ag or Land Services Board or whatever you've got in South Australia. It might be your landscapes group or whatever. There's often a lot of free courses, especially under the Drought Hub type funding and drought preparedness and all this sort of thing. There's sometimes free or heavily subsidized courses available. And even if you think you read the description and you think, oh, you know, that might not be really up my alley, take the chance and have a go, because it will identify the areas where you're lacking and you need to upskill. And then you can say, right, I need to focus on doing this. I need to focus on doing that, all those sorts of things. And for the other, I guess, the sort of like touchy-feely stuff, there are a lot of online groups and coaching things that you can join. We had a coach come to the Farm Wives Conference last time, because you've already planned the next one. And, you know, those sorts of groups, and yes, you are paying for a service, but they are full of support. They are full of helpful, practical strategies that you can implement to help you manage yourself, help you manage your family, your household, because let's not pretend that everything else you do is going to go away just because you're given extra jobs. You will still have to be wife, mum, you know, primary carer, all that sort of thing. And time management and stress management and all that sort of stuff is going to be a bit of an issue.
Absolutely. If you are getting into the farm and you're feeling like it's not aligning with values and it's not aligning with yourself and you just have that ick feeling, you're feeling unmotivated and you need a bit of help and guidance, Jack Owen's book, which was also in the gift bag for the Farm Wives Conference, You Are Not Your Farm, is an incredible read. I have a handful of copies still here. So if you want a copy, I will post it to you. So get in contact with Gillian on the socials, get in contact with me on the email address, and I will post you a copy because it's a fantastic resource that Jack has put together. And it's really helpful for that first step if you do need to identify, what it is on the farm that you need to start with. Beck Fink from, is it House Paddock? She also does work health and safety and HR courses, and they're really good. She gives you all the link, all the paperwork. It's self-led and it's all online. She does a fantastic part of making that relatable as well.
Yep. And, you can't ignore your HR and health and safety obligations these days, because if anything is going to go pear-shaped, you can guarantee it's going to be employees. So make sure you're across it as much as you can be. Don't ever hesitate to get professional advice. Yes, you will pay for it, but it will pay for itself in the long run. New South Wales Farmers, if you're a member of them, or AgForce in Queensland, also do offer some courses and support when it comes to HR and those sorts of things. And yeah, they're out there. A simple Google search and ask around. Word of mouth and recommendations from people that you know and trust will lead you towards something that you will probably get more value out of than people selling you stuff via Instagram or, websites and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think where I would start would definitely be with Jack's book, and then with the DPI, and circle out from that. That would be my starting point for anyone who's feeling overwhelmed and that needs to just have an answer of where to start, is that book and the DPI.
Yep. And yeah, and you can always ask us a question, and if we can't answer it, we will find an expert who can. And yeah, good luck. Fingers crossed for you. I hope everything goes really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. So next year at the Farm Wives Conference, which will be in February, which Gillian and I have already touched on, there is a succession panel that is occurring. We have 4 speakers who will be part of that succession panel. We have one coming from a dairy background who had to fight narcissism to get to where they are. And that partnership went from a 3-way partnership with her husband's family, so his parents and him, and has now merged into a partnership between her and her husband. So fantastic insight on dealing with that and challenging situations that arise from that. We also have a lady who's talking about succession from the outlaw's perspective. So her husband's family went through succession and she was not included in the discussions, and she speaks about what it is that you can do for yourself and for your husband and your children when they are deciding your financial future or your future in general without you having a seat at the table, and the healthy things that you can do in the background for that. There is a lady who is talking about going through succession planning for her children. So she had 3 children and the girls wanted nothing to do with the farm, which was highlighted very early towards the end of their schooling education, and that is when they started to implement their succession planning. So their kids weren't even 18 and it was starting to be implemented because it was very clear for the children what they wanted to do. They did have entrance different protocols for if they do decide further down the road they want to come back into the family farming business, because we don't always know what we want to do at 18. At 18, if you'd asked me, I wouldn't have been here on farm. Who knows where I would have been? I was a jack of all trades, master of none. But that's from a fantastic perspective. And the other speaker on that panel is one of those farm daughters who we know is like 10% is involved in the family succession plan. She was told if she wanted to be a farmer, she needed to go marry a farmer. So she did. And then her farm was wondering why she wasn't putting time into her farm. So, but the tables turned when the golden child, the brother, did not get along with their father. They did not work out the succession plan. They did not get on board They could not align their values. They could not align their mission. They could not align anything that they wanted to do. And the brother left. So now in her late 40s, I'll have to check that, late 40s, they are now going under another round of succession planning where it will skip her generation and go onto her children. So very different aspect there as well, 4 very different succession views. It will all be interesting. It will all come up with many strategies and tools that you can use in your family business, and a great community that can really hold you together while your farm is going through it as well, or not going through it.
As the case may be.
As the case may be.
So yeah, fingers crossed that gets all worked out. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the Great Australian Charity Cattle Drive, which is going from, or it's probably nearly a third of the way through, I'd say. And this was kicked off by some very passionate producers in Queensland who were also involved with the Rotary Club and with an organisation called Food Bank. And they saw a need to put red meat, specifically beef, but red meat in general, into food bank packages for vulnerable people because they really believe in the nutritional quality and the value of having that included in their diet. And red meat's one of those funny things. It's really, really hard to, I guess, because it's not, it lasts in the fridge and all those sorts of things, but, you can't hold it in a pantry for a long time. It's fresh. It's a fresh food product. It needs to be handled appropriately, all those sorts of things, which adds to its cost. So giving it away for free is a big ask of anyone along that supply chain. But, these people are passionate about making sure that these families can have access to this because they are red meat producers. They firmly believe that if a kid gets to eat mince or sausages, a bit of stew, that they will do better at school, they will feel better. And, as a red meat producer ourselves, Katja, we know, it's one of the best foods for a growing brain and growing body, protein and fat. It's two of the best things you can have. So they have borrowed some cattle and some horses, and they are driving these cattle all the way from Longreach to Roma, where they and there's other ag bodies on board. So Ceres tags are tracking some of the cattle that are being allocated to some of the schools. So they're tracking how much they eat, how much they weigh. OptiWeigh have got their scales, so we're finding out how much they're gaining on the thing. Tourists and horse lovers are paying for the privilege of being a drover, which to me is mad. But if you want to do that with your spare time, you go right ahead, because, they have had some decent rain in those areas of Queensland. The flies would be outrageous. I could not even begin to imagine, but they are living the dream. They are camping in swags and eating campfire food every night and loving every second of it. It's not for me, but these people are doing it, and there's all different ways you can get involved. So we will also drop some links to that in the socials this week, and you can support them and spread the word, because I'd really like to see something like, I would like to see Beef Bank, which is the organisation that is providing the red meat packs to Food Bank. I would like to see that nationwide. From a producer perspective, there's always cattle that we have that can be turned into sausages and mince, but, we're not going to get a lot of money for them. And we'd quite happily donate them. If someone else is going to kill them and package them up, it's no skin off our nose to let that thing go. It's not we'd eat it ourselves, but there's a limit to how many things we can eat as well. So, we don't want it to go to waste. If it's not, it's not going to make a massive difference to our bottom line. If everyone had that perspective every time they sent cattle to the yards or to the works, you've got that one with a hoppy leg or, funny eye, and it's not going to make a great price at the sale yards, to let it go to the charity, to put red meat into the bellies of these vulnerable kids and these vulnerable families. Why not? Let's get on board, Australia. Let's every state in Australia do it. Let's support these people and get red meat on the plates of people who need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gillian, while it's probably not for us because we've been there, we've done that. We've done the swags,
Yeah.
We've done the droving. I mean, mine's mostly been by motorbike, but we've done the cookouts, we've done the camping, we've done the hard yards. But it is a great opportunity for people who are wanting to see a bit more of Australian culture and a bit of Australian history, because that was how we used to get it to market before all the big trucking companies and everything came in. We used to drove, and many of us in drought and in hard times still drove along the roads. We still get our permits to drove along the roads. And I think that should be a topic for another day around safety of that. So if you haven't actually seen a mob of cattle or sheep on the roads before, and the safety of how you actually, and the manners of actually driving through it, I don't think is taught anymore. So I think we should do an episode on that as well.
We definitely should. And you know what? You can go on this cattle drive. I don't know if they've still got places available, but they are hoping to make it an annual event. And if you are worried that you'll be out there without mobile connectivity, the wonderful people at Landwatch have supplied them with a Starlink. So you get to have Starlink for the whole cattle drive. You can live stream your adventures if you feel the compulsion. We will post some links so you can keep a track of them and, get behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a worthy cause when we're putting food on the table for vulnerable people.
Yep.
Anything to wrap up today's episode?
I don't think so. What is coming up? Nothing really that I'm aware of. Oh, so one last thing before we do finish up, Katja. We had Albo and Julie Collins here in South Australia a couple of weeks ago. And I said, don't be too hard on them. Give them a bit of time to sort of get back to Canberra, put pen to paper, get some drought support, meaningful drought support. I've just heard again from another producer on the phone this morning. They really are looking for low or no interest loans for carry-on finance, not even a large amount of money, 40 to 60 grand to get them through to the next range so they can pay their bills, put food on the table, buy a bit of feed, a bit of water, a bit of whatever they need to do. They don't want a handout. They're quite happy to pay it back. They have the capacity to pay it back. We're waiting with bated breath for the federal government, because it's their department, this sort of funding. We are waiting with bated breath for them to come to the table on that. They haven't as of yet. So this is just a gentle reminder, Minister Collins and Prime Minister Albanese, when you get back from the world's saddest military parade in America, which is happening at the moment, when you get back from that, really appreciate a call to tell us that you've sorted it out and job's right. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
These producers have been waiting long enough. Let's give them
They
some
have
relief.
been. They're in
They've
their
been
third
patient.
year. Some of them into their fourth year. They're not asking for charity. And thank you to the charity hay runs, but we all know that is just a stopgap. It is just a week's relief at most. It's not going to give people the actual support that they need to carry on these businesses. So, let's get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get on it. We'll drop those in the link in the show notes. Remember to like, subscribe, and send this episode to someone who you know will enjoy to listen to it. And we love hearing from you, so please interact with us on the socials.
And that's it for this week.
That's it from us. We'll see you next week.
Bye.